Hello, this is Natural Fitness Lifestyle. How much is too much when it comes to exercise? Well, it depends on your goals. If you want to have more endurance, if you're trying to be faster, if you're trying to be stronger, if you're just trying to grow more muscle, or even if you're trying to change, or no, trying to shape your muscle. Now, here's the thing, this video is not meant for recommendation or advice. This video is meant strictly for educational purposes only. So let's get back into this discussion here. How much is too much? It depends on your abilities. If you measure your workouts, you'll know how much you can do, and then you can systematically increase that. But it doesn't have to be just there's something called linear progression. That just means adding more. So let's say you do 10 repetitions. Well, linear progression, well, let me do 15. But is that the best approach? I mean, 15, if 15 looked like 10, and those 10 were hard, okay, hey, you're getting somewhere. But if those 15 look like a lot easier than those 10, are you really getting anywhere? I mean, wouldn't it just be more productive to just do 11 that look like the 10, look like the same effort that you applied with the 10? And it comes to a point where like you just can't like beat your record every day. I mean, none of us could beat our record, whether it's in increasing repetitions, you know, increasing weight. This is where the linear progression hits a wall. It's like hitting a wall in a marathon, right? You only go so far. Should I put on my smart glasses? Okay. So take off my smart glasses. So here's the thing. What can you do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? There's such thing as blocking people, by the way. On here, you can do a lot of things. All right. All right. So here it is. Hey, how you doing? How are you? All right. Okay, so this live is getting to be, it's off to a little rocky start, so to speak. You know, there are proper ways there to express yourself, and here on YouTube, I'm keeping things on the totally legit on the level. I express myself in a nice way, in a direct way, and try to help people and try to provide information. And that's what I'm here for, nothing else. So, we're talking about how much is too much when it comes to exercise. Well, let's get back to the example of the 10 reps versus the 11 or 15 repetitions. So, and what we were talking about, the linear progression, increasing up, always increasing, increasing the amount 10 one day, 11 one day, but that's not realistic. It really isn't realistic. So what do you do when you can't do when you do 11 and you can't do 12 the next day? What can you do? Well, this is where techniques, methodology comes into play. There are things like supersets that can make you work out harder. But how you superset, taking a compound exercise followed by an isolation. I hear, well, I know you've heard it done differently. But one thing is, you fatigue a muscle, and especially the muscle near the joint or the joint. So let's take the performing a set of leg extensions right before your squats. You're fatiguing the muscles around the joints, which is the kneecap, the muscles which is the vastus medialis, right? The vastus medialis is on the inside of the leg thigh. It's close to the knee, and it helps to stabilize the knee. If you fatigue that too much, it's not wise to jump into follow it with a heavy set or a hard, strenuous set of squats. I mean, for me, that's why I always like to do it the other way around. Rather, start with the squat and then follow with the leg extension. Hey, how you doing, everybody? Nice to see everyone. Nice to see everybody. Thank you for dropping in. I really appreciate everybody dropping in. Yes. You too. Have a good night, Alex. So I followed the squat with the isolation movement. And I found that because the squat allowed me to work more muscles in one movement, following it up with the isolation movement really helped a lot. And that's only one example. You can actually you don't have to use a machine. There's such things as resistance bands, which add resistance at the top or at the end range of motion. So there's something called the strength curve. So usually when you're doing a squat or pressing movement or curl, any type of exercises, any type of resistance movement, the finishing part is the easiest. But when you add a band, the finishing part becomes more difficult. So that's yet another way to make things harder without have to necessarily add more repetitions or more weight. Oh yes, definitely. How you doing? Definitely. Well, it's the same example. You progress. Well, first thing first, I believe in assessment. Assess yourself. There's old tests, standard tests for like people. But you assess yourself. One of the standard tests back in the old days is to take, this was very old school, with 70% of what you could do one time. And this was, by the way, for isolation exercises, 70% of what you could do in a curl, and see if you could do 10 reps with it. And then you try to progress from there. But you can, not everyone's the same. And, keep in mind that was for a general population of even young people. So now we're talking about, over 40. So you could scale that back. It doesn't have to be 70%, because there's something called the rate of perceived exertion. Let me rewind that. Rate of perceived exertion. That just means how hard an exercise feels. So you don't have to literally try to curl 70% of what you could do one time. You could just see what you could curl that feels on a scale of 1 to 10, that feels like a 6 or 7. So this is something I believe in a lot for beginners, no matter what your age, but especially advanced age, using a subjective scale. rather than looking at the weight on the bar or how many reps you do, rating yourself, guiding yourself by how difficult, how hard the exercise feels, and don't just jump into something that's feels like an 8 in difficulty on a scale of 1 to 10. More practical to start out for beginners. Start out with an exercise that feels like a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. I hope that helps. One love, one life to live. I hope that helps. One life, one love, one life, one love underscore one life to live. I hope that helps because this is a very, very safe way to guide yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, some people like use 6 on a scale of 10 to 20, but I mean, come on. Why? you, you'll be you'll be tired just counting to 20. So a scale of 1 to 10, I still use that, because every day you feel differently. So it's more for, realistic. Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Fastest way to get tight abs is to don't tighten them too, too hard to begin with. Learn learn how to tighten your abs without get this. Learning how to tighten your abs without tightening your neck, without tightening your shoulders, is one of the most difficult things to do. You have to be able to breathe right through your nostrils and relax your neck and your shoulder muscles. Because in most abdominal exercises, people use their shoulders, use their neck. So relax your neck, relax your shoulders, breathe, and just feel your abdominals contract. Focus on the feeling. That's the best way to tighten your abs, because then you always stay focused on how your abs feel, how tight or how much you can tighten your abs. But don't start out attempting to do too much or too vigorous, because the abdominals is one of the only muscles that it's not attached to tendons and tendons, right? It's not like your biceps that are attached to tendons, which are attached to bones. No, the abdominals are attached to a little thing by ligaments. It attaches to, inguinal ligaments, to cartilages. Well, no, it just attaches to, to cartilages, to the inner cartilages, your core muscles, your transverse, and, these muscles underneath your abdominals take longer to contract, and they're the support for your abdominals. It's not only about abdominals, it's what's underneath the abdominals. And these only work with proper breathing, learning how to take a deep breath, draw in your abdominals. Hey, thank you very much. One life, one love, underscore one life to live. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good work. Have a good day at work. Thank you again too. Thank you for dropping in. You see, I put this sea background. I like the ocean, man, because the background is safe. I can't swim, but I could look at I could pretend I'm in the ocean with a nice background here. Anyway, I really appreciate everyone dropping in today. And so it goes, how much is too much? Some days I feel like I let myself down because instead of doing the usual amount of sets, say I usually do 10 sets and one exercise, or let's say 20 reps, but then I rethink. I rethink it all. If I just focus more on every single rep, because hey, when I do 20 reps, sometimes there's some repetitions where I relax too much, where I don't focus as much. So even if I do 10 reps, as long as I focus on each and every one of them, I'm going to get more out of it. So I don't have to feel like I'm letting myself down. So this is one of those things, like when knowing how much is enough or how much is too much has a very different signs and very different indications, in many different ways to indicate to you that perhaps today the 10 to 20 reps is too much. Yes, it's consistency is really what counts. I mean, you do 10 reps today, 5 yesterday, but you keep going. It adds up. 10 and 5. This is the way I look at it. 10 and 5 is 15. But if you do 15 one day and then you just miss 2 workouts, it's still 15. Right? If you do 12 and then you do 7, you got 19. You have more and you're more consistent. Hey, how are you? How you doing? How's everybody? Yeah, I hope so. This is what I intend to be on. YouTube. Yes, indeed. So we're talking about how much is too much in exercise. So let's take like today, you want to do push-ups, and you normally get 15, but you only got 14. Oh my goodness. I let myself down. I only got 14, but not really. You could try a different way of doing push-ups, maybe wide, right? Maybe making the push-ups harder by holding at the top a little bit, holding in the middle, and then you do 14 that way, or even 12 that way, or even 10 that way. And it might feel harder than doing the normal 15. So how much is enough? That's up to you, all in the way you feel. It's not always on how much you can count, but how much is enough and how much is too enough depends strictly on the way you feel. Scale of 1 to 10 is a very practical guide. Some days you work out a 6, some days you work out at a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. So I hope this helps, and I hope this live helps. Especially like if you're a little advanced in years, giving the scale, subjective scale, or the effort scale of 1 to 10, it can be very practical and helpful to you. So you have a great night. Hope to see you again. And remember, like and subscribe.